A former host on our rival cable news network MSNBC claims that the network boss, quote, called me into his office and said that he'd been talking to people in Washington and that they did not like my tone. The former host also says he was told he had to have more Republicans on his program and that he lost his nightly slot and was offered only a weekend role instead, even though his ratings had been growing and topped those of the predecessor from whom he took over the slot in late January. No, not me.
I am out at MSNBC.
Cenk Uygur, also the primary figure in the influential radio and internet show The Young Turks, had been hosting MSNBC's 6 p.m. hour since some sort of big shakeup they had over there 5-6 months ago. Well, 6 months ago. 6 months ago today. But who's counting? He says he declined a position doing something on the weekends to contribute to other programs as well. And the New York Times reports the channel's 6 p.m. slot will apparently instead go to the Reverend Al Sharpton, 3 months after Sharpton's National Action Network gave an MSNBC executive a Keepers of the Dream award. This move of the hiring of Mr. Sharpton, the reported hiring, has been criticized by at least one member of the National Association of Black Journalists. When rumors surfaced this week that Sharpton was under consideration for the MSNBC job, Richard Prince writes in his blog Journalisms, one NABJ member told colleagues without challenge this would still be just another non-journalist media celebrity receiving a TV show based upon their name recognition, not their years of experience, training, ability, and talent. Meanwhile, back to Cenk Uygur.
I got pulled in, and they told me, hey, listen, we were just, or it was actually one specific person, the head of MSNBC. He said, I was just in Washington, and people in Washington tell me that they're concerned about your tone. I was like, whoa. And he said, I'd love to be an outsider. Outsiders are cool. But we're not. We're insiders. We are the establishment.
About the people in Washington, quote, MSNBC has pushed back. According to the New York Times, one of its presidents denied there was political pressure. Quoting the paper, the people in Washington, he said, were MSNBC producers who were responsible for booking guests for the 6 p.m. hour, and some of them had said that Mr. Uygur's aggressive body language and overall demeanor were making it harder to book guests. The conversation was, hey, look, here's how we can make it better, about physical things on the show. Let's watch the body language now as we're joined, and it's a pleasure to be so, from Los Angeles on his first night freed from the mainstream media by Cenk Uygur. Good evening, Cenk, and welcome to the Alumni Association.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it.
So you've read this pushback from MSNBC that the people in Washington were not politicians, but just the channel's own producers responsible for getting the guests, the bookers. Are you buying that?
Well, let's see how that unfolds. Booker pulls aside the president of MSNBC and says, I'm going to complain about my host, and I want you to pull him into a very serious meeting and tell him all about it. Really? That's how it works. Okay, but let's say you believe that. That's fine. So then the person pulls me into a meeting in his office and says, gives me a whole speech about, hey, look, people in Washington are talking and your tone is a problem and we're insiders and you need to be establishment. And that's because my booker didn't want me to move my arms that much? Who can believe that?
I'll just pass on your rhetorical question. You said for the web piece that those clips that we showed were from, that you were asked to have more Republicans on, and you didn't have a problem with that, but certainly you weren't going to treat Republicans with kid gloves. Did somebody ask you to treat Republicans with kid gloves, or anybody with kid gloves?
No, to be fair, they never said treat the Republicans with kids' gloves. Okay. They thought that I should have more Republicans on, but I thought we had plenty of Republicans on, and I didn't mind having them on at all. I love ripping into them. Yeah. If they want to come on the program, God bless their heart. I'm going to come for them. No, if anything, the sense I got was, hey, take it a little easier on Washington in general, because I think that the politicians are largely corrupt. And it's not their fault. It's not personal. My decision at MSNBC is not personal. What I say about the politicians isn't personal. It's the system. The system is corrupted because they rely on lobbyists and special interests, and that's how they get paid. Those are the people who sign their checks. So, of course, they do their bidding. But if you say that on television, apparently that gets you into some degree of trouble.
The other thing from the web video that touches on that same point, that the executive had said, I'd love to be an outsider. Outsiders are cool, but we're not. We're insiders. We are the establishment. Can you expand on that? Was that a sort of standard viewpoint in your dealings with them?
No, I was actually a little surprised by that. Not a little, I was significantly surprised by that because, you know, if anything, you expect it to be subtle. And there's a lot of pervasive, subtle pressure. It's not like they don't let you say things, but when you do, somebody gets a call saying, really? Like, and so that becomes so pervasive that people, you know, as we're planning the show, like, you sure you want to do that? And if I say, yeah, I'm sure I want to do that, they would let me, right? But it felt like somebody was taking notes. And as long as they didn't act on it, I didn't have a problem. I thought, take all the notes you want. I'm going to do the show I like. But at the end, apparently, I had incredibly good ratings given to what they asked me to do. I did better than the year before. I beat the hell out of CNN. So apparently those notes did matter. And so given the speech that I got, I thought, well, look, they are the establishment. They told me so, and then they acted upon it.
Well, you have your own anti-establishment establishment. You have a very loyal audience, Cenk, and you engage their help in getting you on to MSNBC in the first place. How would you want them to react to this?
Look, I think the most important message out of all this isn't about Cenk Uygur, isn't about MSNBC. It's about the media and the press in general. And are we going to be honest with our audience? Are we going to trade in honesty and truth and information that we're supposed to gather for access? And that, I couldn't stand that about the mainstream media before I went there, when I used to tell the Young Turks audience about this is a huge problem. And now that I've been inside that machine, it turns out I was totally right about our outside perception of it. The problem is they are obsessed with access, and we cannot have it. If you say, hey, listen,
Cenk,
I got to have the Democrats on my show going into the election.
I have to cut you,
know,
off.
It's
Can you
not
imagine
right.
this? I actually have to cut you off. I don't know why this all seems so familiar to me. Anyway, great, thanks, good luck. We'll be in touch. I'm Keith Olbermann.
All right.
Countdown's over. Good night and good luck.